Hello, welcome to Get Your Mind On. If I could give you one thing as a leader that could help you increase morale, increase the outcomes of the individuals you manage, increase productivity, and impact the bottom line, what would that be? Have you ever thought about optimism and the impact that optimism can make on the people in the organization? Many people think of optimism as that emotional, touchy-feely stuff, that unrealistic, optimistic person who's kind of Pollyanna-ish. That person who's motivational. Well, gosh, wouldn't that be great if you had somebody who was leading you that was motivational, who inspired you to be better than you ever thought you'd be? There are lots of advantages of optimism. One is just really helping to transform situations in possibly what could be. Helping people to be better, to think of things that they might not think of otherwise, to really think of other alternatives, and to make things better than they ever thought they would be. That's what optimism does. Optimism does those things for individuals, and it could impact people in different ways. And if you think back to some leaders who are optimistic, one that was probably most known was Ronald Reagan. He was the eternal optimist. He would always take a situation and make people feel really good about it, and would look at it in a different way and find the sunny side, the best side of what could be. Now, also balancing it with realism, balancing it with the facts, balancing it with knowledge and logic. And so you look at that and think about how the benefits of optimism could help. Really, when you think about an optimistic view, you think about energy, you think about commitment, and you think about the outcomes that can be created by that. Alternatively, when you think about other leaders that maybe have the other view of pessimism, think about that leader who is the one bringing morale down, or that individual on your team who is always pessimistic, always saying, well, we've tried that before and it's not going to work, or that's not going to work, or there's no reason to do that. That's a dumb idea. Now, hopefully nobody goes that extreme, but I've heard that in different meetings. So when you think about pessimism, you just think about how it feels and what it brings to the organization in a negative way, and how it really doesn't impact people positively. So we have to think about pessimism versus optimism and the impact of optimism, even though many people think it's a feely, emotional thing. Well, Marty Seligman, father of positive psychology and the author of Learn to Optimism, did some research on the business impact of optimism. He did some studies at MetLife and found that those who scored higher on optimism performed 37% better over a 2-year period than those who didn't. Those who scored lower on optimism had a 2 times higher rate of turnover in the first 2 years. So obviously some business impact from a perspective of productivity and outcomes, and then from a perspective of retention and training costs and labor costs to your organization. If you bring people up over a couple years and then they decide to leave, obviously those who had optimism stuck with the role longer and had higher business impact. So when you think of those types of things, there is a direct impact on business outcomes. The other thing that optimism can do is when you think about relationships, it can have a really positive impact on relationships. And we've talked many times in many of these videos about relationships and the importance of building relationships and the impact that has overall on many, many things as a leader in our business. Think about the people you like to hang around with. Are those the people who are always thinking about what could be, or help you think about a situation in a different way, versus those who are saying you can't do that, there's no way to get that done, that's not a good idea. So, I think we really have to think about the relationships that are built over time with optimism. So is optimism born, or is it a learned trait? Well, there's many people who are naturally born with optimism. That is a naturally talent, personality, part of us, that we think of things that are half full. We think of things in a positive way. We think of the sunny side. That is naturally easy to follow someone who has that and to pick it out in them. Now, if you don't have that as much, can you learn it? There are some traits that you can learn in terms of the optimism piece. Mostly it's really thinking about being aware of, if you are more negative, how you can really be aware of if that negativity is coming off in a bad way. So some of those ways would be, number one, thinking about the environments that you're in. Is it a positive environment? Is it an optimistic environment? Who are you surrounding yourself with in terms of, are there people around you who are naturally optimistic? Those who are, you have a tendency to want to be more like them. And you might, of course, see that more, and that might be more encouraging to you. The other thing is when you use your natural strengths, it's going to be more optimistic for you because you feel better about the impact you make. That's another way to think about optimism. So optimism really is a trait that we're born with, but there are some things that you can be aware of in terms of if you're not quite as optimistic. And the other way would, of course, be asking for feedback, asking individuals if you do get negative once in a while. Again, we need to balance that logic and that optimism together. For positive charge this week, first think, are you a natural optimistic person or are you pessimistic? If you're naturally optimistic, think about ways you can continue to lead others and surround yourself with people and make an impact in a more positive way. And if you're naturally a pessimist, think about what you can do differently to increase the optimism in your world. Maybe whether that's surrounding yourself with others, asking others for feedback, just think of a way this week that you can be more aware of your impact on others if you're in a pessimistic way. Many employees and leaders, clients and customers want to work with people they love. They want to work with people who are optimistic, who help them achieve their goals, and who motivate them in many different ways. And optimism is one way to do that. It's a connection emotionally to people that helps build relationships and helps make an impact. And most important, it helps impact the bottom line. Thanks for joining us today, and remember to get your mind on.